All right. So we'll call the meeting to order. Do we want to go through and start with Lucy and just? Do you want to start on the other side? All right, let's start with Adam.
Adam Lasney, New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Butch Laker, Manchester Planning. Alice Fletcher, Manchester Planning.
Anthony Summers, Planning Commission.
David Hilton with the commission.
Nate Miller, staff of the commission.
James Bayer, staff of the commission.
Zach Sprick with the commission.
Not Francis Town. Andrew Randolph with Mr. Smith. Lucy St. John, New Hampshire. Good morning.
Good morning. Maggie Baldwin, City of Manchester, DPW.
And Sylvia Von Aulock with SNHPC. And then virtually, should I just go? Okay, Liz, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Elizabeth Robidoux, Town of Derry.
And Andrew?
Andrew Haddock, Chester Town Planner.
And Kristen?
Kristen Clark, City of Manchester.
And Kristen?
Kristen Farr, Town of Londonderry, Town Planner.
Wonderful. And Becky?
Becky Hebert, Planning Director in Bedford.
Thanks, everybody. And then we have some guests. We have Craig. Craig Tufts from, just muted yourself, Craig Tufts from Central Regional Planning Commission, and Alex, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm Alex Hawk, just a citizen from Manchester, here to absorb information.
All right, thank you.
All right. Review of minutes from November, December, and January.
Make any decisions because we don't have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll move on to number 3, new business. First item is overview of the SNHPC fiscal federal year 2025-2028 transportation improvement program by Nate.
All right. Can everyone see this in full screen mode, both online and in the room? I think so.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. So we're going to talk about some projects today. And hopefully there's a lot of content to cover. I'll try to be, somewhat expeditious in going through it, but there are a lot of projects happening in the region, and we're going to highlight many of them today in the context of our draft tip, which was in your packets. And I showed this slide because we talk about a lot of different plans. We talk about the TIP being TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program, which is a federal requirement on a 4-year basis. We talk about the 10-year plan, the TYP, sometimes you'll see it referenced, the 10-year plan, which is a state law, state requirement to look out 10 years. And then we have our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is years 11 through 20, and sometimes beyond 20. So projects go into our long-range plan, our metropolitan plan, they advance into the 10-year plan. And when something advances into the 10-year plan, it is the first formal commitment at the state level to bring that project to construction. The TIP being essentially the first 4 years of the 10-year plan, although the TIP is updated much more frequently than the 10-year plan is. So new information gets incorporated in the TIP more often than the 10-year plan, which is updated every 2 years. So when we talk about the TIP, we are talking about a 4-year period only. And in this case, fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2028, that 4-year period. So today we're going to talk about what is in the pipeline in the region for that 4-year period. Just by way of logistics, we have prepared a draft tip in coordination with New Hampshire DOT and the other MPOs in New Hampshire. We released that for a 30-day public comment period on February 12th. You can go on the front page of our website or on the tip page of our website and find it there. You may have seen our legal notices in the Union Leader and such. So we put that out on February 12th. Our 30-day comment period will run through March 14th, Friday, March 14th. The TAC will again meet on March 13th, a week earlier than normal, next month. And we'll have an additional ability to provide feedback at that meeting. And then we will consider adoption of the draft tip at our March 18th MPO meeting. I'm going to start highlighting projects, but I'm going to start with the projects that aren't in our region, the SNHPC region in the tip. And the reason I'm starting with this is the very first project, if you open up our tip and look, is in the town of Allenstown. And you may say, well, why is a project in the town of Allenstown, which is not a Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission community, why is that in the tip? And the reason for that is, and it's hard to tell from this screen, but if you see in green here, this is the Manchester urbanized area as defined by the US Census. It's sort of in a light faded green up here. But if you look, you can see that extends into a small portion of Bow, Allenstown, and Pembroke. Under federal regulations, we need to make sure that the entire Manchester urbanized area is covered under our metropolitan planning process. So we have a memorandum of understanding with our friends at Central New Hampshire Planning Commission to include projects in the Manchester urbanized area portions of those communities in our tip. And in part, that's why Craig Tufts is here today and why Central New Hampshire Planning Commission regularly participates in our meetings, and vice versa. We participate in theirs to ensure coordination within the urbanized area. So there are two projects that fall into that category. Allenstown, there's a complete streets improvement project on their main street, and then there is a safety improvement project on Route 3A in Bow. If there are any questions about those, thankfully Craig is on the call today and can answer any questions you may have on those. I am not particularly too up to speed on what's happening with those two projects, other than what we're programming in the tip. I'd also highlight that there are a number of local bridge projects. I'm not going to read them all one by one here. You can see them on the screen. These are local bridge projects on local roads. The reason they're appearing in the tip is because in some cases, portions of funding, generally the construction phase funding, has been swapped out from state to federal funds. So all of these local bridge projects have a federal funding component related to those, and anything that has federal funding has to be included in our tip. So I'm not going to go one by one. These are all municipally managed local projects. They just happen to have federal funding components with construction phase work. So on to the kind of regional projects happening, and we're going to go in alphabetical order by community here. Bedford, this is the Route 3 widening from Hawthorne Drive to Raymond Wazorek Drive. It is moving forward. There is the funding in the tip is primarily for engineering and right-of-way phase work. The construction will be happening beyond the tip horizon, so after 2028. The engineering phase work is ongoing. I happen to be on the project advisory committee for that project, and we are meeting once again next month. So things are continuing. Engineering work is continuing on the project. Construction now scheduled to begin in fiscal 29. Bedford 44296. This is the 3,800 feet of new sidewalk that on Old Bedford Road and in the area of the Memorial Elementary School. This was a CMAQ project added in the last CMAQ cycle, added into the 10-year plan. There are a number of CMAQ projects that are appearing for the first time in the tip that came out of that last cycle. The DOT programs the schedule for these projects in coordination with the affected municipalities. In this case, the construction schedule is beyond the tip horizon. There is some funding in the tip for engineering phase and work related to this project.
We have some new people. Maybe explain what CMAQ is.
CMAQ is the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program. it is a core federal aid program, and it is solicited every 4 years now, and was last solicited 2 years ago. And the projects from 2 years ago were put into the current 10-year plan. And then later this morning, you'll talk about the Transportation Alternatives Program. That is the other. So CMAQ is solicited every 2 years, then TAP, then CMAQ, then TAP. So we happen to be in the TAP cycle right now. We'll be talking more about that later on. So we will see another congestion mitigation and air quality program solicitation in 2 years. But this is a new project that entered from the solicitation in 2022. And so is this. This is another project in Bedford, another CMAQ project. This one is for electric vehicle charging equipment at the Hannaford grocery store on Jenkins Road in Bedford. There's a small amount of funding in the TIP for engineering phase work related to that, and the construction schedule is beyond 2028. In Candia, what we would call locally in Candia the Four Corners project. It's safety and operational improvements at Route 2743 and Raymond Road. This is a project that we put into the 10-year plan 6 years ago now, maybe over 6 years ago. It is now in engineering phase work, and will begin construction in 2028 and continue construction beyond the TIP horizon. So there is 3.3 million in the TIP right now, and some additional construction phase work is programmed beyond 2028. In Candia and Raymond, and only most of this project is actually in the town of Raymond. Only a piece of it goes into the town of Candia. This is a DOT-led effort to rehabilitate and in some places reconstruct a section of Route 101. It's anytime you're dealing on the tier 1 roadways, it gets expensive quickly, and this particular project is close to $23 million. It will be constructed between fiscal 26 and 28 as currently programmed, and there are no changes from the last TIP. This is a state managed tier 1 reconstruction project on 101. Exit 4A. I'm not going to go into great detail about Exit 4A, but we've had a number of presentations here at the TAC and MPO in the past on the status of Exit 4A. It has been, the actual construction of Exit 4A has been broken up into what we call child projects. There's an A, B, and C project. The A project is mostly finished with construction now. The B project is underway and under construction. And the C we'll talk about in a moment is going to be, we're going to see a delay in the C project. You'll see that there is a project 13065, which was the original Exit 4A project. That still exists, but it's pretty much used only for right-of-way funding to support the child projects that are going to construction. The actual construction funding is in those A, B, C, D, and E projects. The A project was previously obligated. The B project is previously obligated and under construction. You will see funding in the TIP for the C project, about $10.5 million. That is expected to start in fiscal year 27 and continue beyond the TIP horizon. And that is a delay. So it was in the last TIP was anticipated to start earlier than 2027. It has been delayed to 27 to provide additional time for design. So the A and B projects are under construction, and the C will see a delay to fiscal 27. Hooksett. This is the reconstruction and widening of Route 3 from Martins Ferry Road to Alice Avenue. This project is moving forward. Start of construction has been delayed to fiscal 28, but engineering phase work continues. There's a very active project advisory committee And a number of public informational meetings have been held to refine the design. I think we're honing in on the design now, the final design for the project. So things are very much moving forward on this Hooksett project. But it's been a public process to reach consensus on the ultimate design for that project. And at this point, we're looking at the start of construction in 28. Another project in Hooksett. This is the reconstruction of Route 3A and Hackett Hill Road, as well as Route 3A and Main Street. There's just under $4.4 million of funding in the TIP, looking at construction in 2027. If Bruce was here, he could tell us a lot more about the status of that project. I know this is a high profile project in the town of Hooksett, and Bruce and the staff in Hooksett are working closely with their engineering consultants and DOT to bring this project towards construction. So a few months ago, there were some concepts presented for each of these intersections at one of the Hooksett Town Council meetings. If anybody's interested in learning more about the designs that are under consideration, we can certainly share that information with you. Hooksett 44627. This is another of the new CMAQ projects that are appearing in the TIP. This one is for electric vehicle chargers at the Merchants Auto location, the public Merchants Auto location off of Route 3. There is $39,000 of funding in the TIP. That is primarily for engineering phase work. Construction will happen after 2028 as currently programmed. I don't think I have much more to say about that one. There are a number of these electric vehicle CMAQ projects that you will see over the course of this morning. Londonderry 41593. This is the improvement project at the intersection of Route 28 and 128. There is just over $4.1 million of funding in the TIP for this. Construction phase work is anticipated to now begin in fiscal 28 and continue beyond the TIP horizon. They are doing engineering phase work at this point on this project, so things are moving forward, but at this point, fiscal 28 looks to be the target start of construction. Londonderry 41715. This is operational and safety improvements at Route 28 and Stonehenge Road. This is programmed for just under $4.3 million in the TIP. Construction scheduled for fiscal 25 and 26. That is a little bit of a delay. I think it was originally scheduled for 24 to 25. It's now 25 to 26. They needed some additional time to accommodate some of the MS4 stormwater control measures in the area. But it looks like this is headed towards construction in the not too distant future. Londonderry 44361 is the final piece of the Londonderry Rail Trail development, what they call phase 7 of the Londonderry Rail Trail. It's 2,580 feet. There is $600,000 of funding in the TIP for that effort, and it is anticipated for construction in 2028 as currently programmed. And this is also one of the new CMAQ projects that you're seeing in the TIP for the first time from the last solicitation. On the topic of CMAQ projects, again, this is another EV charging project that was CMAQ funded. This is at the convenience store and fueling site owned by Nuria Energy, which I believe is on Rockingham Road in Londonderry. There's another Nuria Energy one we'll talk about later that's on Rockingham Road in Wyndham. So Nuria likes to locate in places called Rockingham Road, and total funding $44,606 in the TIP, and construction of these EV chargers is anticipated beyond the TIP horizon of 2028. Yep.
So for these DC fast chargers, I saw on the Bedford chargers that said what the kilowatt hours were.
Mhm.
Do you know, are these level 2, level 3 chargers?
I think they're all level 3.
It's level 3 chargers.
Yeah. Londonderry, Wyndham, Seabrook 44355. This is a DOT Bureau of Traffic CMAQ project, and it's looking at signal timing and signal coordination and optimization on 3 corridors: Route 102 in Londonderry, Route 111 in Windham, and US Route 1 in Seabrook. Construction is beyond the tip horizon, but there is some engineering phase work involved, and that is programmed in the tip. And this is also a recent CMAQ award that's appearing in the tip for the first time. Manchester 16099. This is the exit 6 and 7 project, which is Turnpike funded. But it is regionally significant. So even though it's not federally funded, it's state Turnpike funds. We do include it in our tip because of its regional significance. Total funding in the tip period is 21 million, just over 21 million. Construction schedule is beyond the tip period. And based on the current 10-year plan, exit 7 is programmed to go first from 29 to 31. And exit 6 is programmed to go after exit 7, starting in 31 and continuing to 34. We'll see what happens over the course of, if there's any evolution in the exit 6 and 7 construction schedule. But at this point, there is $21 million of funding in the tip for engineering and right-of-way work to support the exit 6 and 7 reconstruction projects. Manchester 24206. So this is the westbound Amoskeag bridge. This is scheduled to begin in 2028 and potentially continue beyond the tip horizon. There's $5.6 million for Amoskeag westbound in the tip. And again, that starts in fiscal 28. The one that starts earlier than that is Amoskeag eastbound, and Amoskeag eastbound bridge, just under 11.6 million, construction programmed for 25 to 27, as currently programmed in the tip. So eastbound will go first, followed by westbound, and that will be a significant bridge rehabilitation effort for the city. 41594 in Manchester. This is improvements at I-293 exit 1, and currently programmed for 2.56 million. Construction schedule in 28, and that has been the construction schedule all along for that project since it went into the 10-year plan 7 years ago now. So no changes there. 42881 in Manchester is the construction of a northbound right turn lane and lane utilization modification at South Willow and Weston Road intersection. I know this project is honing in on construction. 1.15 million programmed in the tip, with construction anticipated or at least programmed for 25. No changes. This I believe is also a CMAQ project, but from the cycle before the last cycle. So not from 2 years ago, but from the previous cycle of CMAQ. Manchester 42886. This is the roundabout at near Dairyfield School at River Road and Bicentennial Drive. I believe this is the state managing this project on behalf of the city. Yes. Okay. So at this point, construction is anticipated in fiscal 27, and there is just over $2 million programmed in the tip for that intersection project. Manchester 43826. This is the RAISE projects, the RAISE grant projects in the city of Manchester. The total funding programmed in the tip is 22.038 million. That is primarily the construction phase funding that remains to be obligated in that project. There were obligations of PE and right-of-way phase funding that happened prior to this tip period. So that's why you're just seeing the construction phase obligations in the tip, and that construction obligation is currently programmed for fiscal 25. Manchester 43850. This is the Eddy Road exit 6 southbound on-ramp intersection safety improvements. This is a a project that was added into the 10-year plan at the request of Councilor Gatsis at the conclusion of the 10-year plan process 3 years ago now, something like that. Not the most recent 10-year plan process, but the one before that. And I get a lot of questions because it's close by here as to what this project is and what it will do. If you can imagine where the mobile station is, that currently only allows, only receives one direction of traffic. It will be reconstructed to receive traffic from both directions on Eddy Road. And the other ramp off of the circle, the northern southbound on-ramp will be closed. So all traffic will be going through Eddy Road. That short little ramp, that short little ramp north of there will be closed, yes, and then there will be some Eddy Road improvements that involve turn lanes and a signalized intersection at the ramp, and so we'll see what comes of this. This is what I know of this project at this time, but the design will be refined over time. Manchester 44352. This is also a recent CMAQ project. This is on Route 28A, which is Mammoth Road in Manchester. There's a series of improvements involving signals and turn lanes and sidewalk gap filling on a 1.7 mile section of 28A between Bridge Street and Silly and Hughes Road. There's just over 300,000 in funding for programmed for this project in the TIP that is primarily engineering and right-of-way phase work. Construction is programmed beyond 2028, beyond our TIP horizon. Manchester 44857. This is the earmark, or I should say the congressionally directed spending for downtown pedestrian infrastructure improvements. Currently scheduled for construction or programmed for 2027. Total funding in the TIP is $1.875 million for that project. Manchester Transit Center 44831. This is the FTA 5339 discretionary award to MTA to construct a new Manchester Transit Center on the site of the existing MTA facility. So it is an exciting project. We've coordinated closely with MTA to make sure that the funding programmed in the TIP and the timeline in the TIP meshes with their discussions with FTA about obligation timing. So we're excited about this one. It will be exciting to see this one come to fruition. Nashua Merrimack Bedford 13761. This is anytime you see these old project numbers, so the current project numbers are 4445. You know that 13 goes back to a long time ago. And so this is the F.E. Everett Turnpike widening from Bedford to Nashua. And it's kind of the 13761 project is largely engineering and right-of-way costs. There have been a series, like Exit 4A, a series of child projects that actually are the construction related projects. In our region, the Bedford section went first in that project. So if you've been through there, you know that it's under construction. In fact, much of the work in our region has largely been done. The majority of the work yet to come is in the Nashua region, in the towns of Merrimack and Nashua. They have significant projects there. There are a couple of bridges in Merrimack that need to be completely reconstructed to allow the wider footprint of the turnpike. That work is going to continue for some time. And in fact, in the last 10-year plan, we know that work is now anticipated to extend through fiscal year 2031. So while in our region, a lot of that project has been, moving forward, there's still a long way to go in the Nashua region. New Boston 27729. This is a red list culvert, a red list bridge, but it is a culvert culvert replacement on Route 13 over Cochrane Brook. Would be a state managed red list bridge project, and there is 555,000 of funding in the tip primarily for PE and right of way phase work there. Construction is beyond the fiscal 28 tip horizon. Debt service is something that we need to continue to carry in our tip and is continuing, even though the construction of I-93 is complete and has been for a couple of years now. The debt service continues. And if you look at project 14633, the waterfall is hitting what we call the debt service waterfall. So it goes from the state funded portion of debt service goes from less than $3 million a year to more than $20 million a year between 25 and 26. So that has been known. It's been coming for a long time. It's been part of the bond models. It is funded by SB 367, which it was the 4 cents added to the gas tax a number of years ago now. And part of the increase of that 4 cents on the gas tax back then was to cover this portion of I-93 debt service. So that's what you see in project 14633. There's also some federal Garvey bonded debt service. So it's not state funded. It's actually coming off of the formula fund, federal formula funds on project that you'll see is project 14800B and 14800C. So those are federal Garvey funded Garvey bond debt service, whereas 14633, the actual debt service, is state funded through the gas tax. What's that? Is it 2033 or 2034 on the state funded portion? Something like that. Yeah, it's yeah. And like I said, it's not surprising that waterfall is hitting here. You know, if you've listened to the commissioner talk or Victoria before that, you know, they knew that this was coming for quite some time, but it is now here.
Even when you shrink it to the little municipality, like when we had the bond by conservation, we talked about when the debt was gonna kill us.
Yeah.
And it did. But then right after it killed us, it's like almost. So I'm just checking the way I'm going.
Serious language, Linda. You're here, you're alive. It didn't kill you.
No, it didn't kill it, but it was really scary when those big numbers came.
I bet.
In where there's a state managed project for a bridge on Route 77 over the second canal of Choate Brook, there is funding in the tip, 470,000, primarily for engineering and right-of-way phase work there. Construction for this one is also beyond the tip horizon, and it was originally anticipated to be within the tip horizon. Again, this is a state managed bridge project, and so based on their current bridge model and needs, it's going to be the construction aspect of this will be beyond the tip horizon. Wyndham 40663. This is the Route 111 corridor engineering study. That, you know, Sylvia and Dave in our office, I think are involved in the committee for that effort. It is ongoing. There's 155,000 remaining in the tip. There were obligations prior to this tip period to support that effort as well. So this is not something that's going to go to construction. It's a corridor engineering study to set the stage, potentially set the stage for a future project. Wyndham 40665, intersection improvements at 28 and Ralston Road. So this will be going to construction, or is at least anticipated to go to construction in fiscal 27. 1.765 million of funding in the tip. We did see a construction delay from 26 to 27 to allow the department more time for project design, and they are working through the PE phase work on this project, but we are anticipating at this point fiscal 27. Wyndham 44633. This is the other Nuria Energy gas station charging project. And this is at 13 to 15 Rockingham Road in Windham. Again, there's a small amount of funding for engineering phase work for that effort, but construction is programmed beyond the tip horizon. I would be remiss in not noting some of the Manchester Transit Authority's funding that you'll see in the tip. So the MTA Section 5307 urbanized area funding. This is their core funding for operating paratransit, preventative maintenance and planning for not only MTA services, but CARTs as well. And there really haven't been any, their funding comes in largely by FTA formula for the urbanized area. And so there aren't at this point any anticipated surprises with that funding. MTA's Section 5310 funding. This is actually only for the CART service area. This tracks the Nashua urbanized area 5310 funding that comes directly to CART. So that's why it says seniors and individuals with disabilities in the CART service area. Because the CART service area includes part of the Nashua urbanized area, the Nashua urbanized area is over 200,000. Therefore, CART is a designated recipient of Section 5310 funding, and we track that through this particular project. And very similarly, just as CART is in the over 200,000 area and is a designated recipient of 5310 funding, they are also a designated recipient of 5339 funding, which is capital funding. Fleet to support fleet vehicles and replacements. And so no surprises with any of the MTA related funding. I'm not going to go through all of these. There are lots of statewide programs that you'll see in the tip. They all have they start with P. They're all called program. They serve many different purposes. Everything from ADA improvements to underwater bridge inspections and everything in between. These are umbrella statewide programs. They do, however, have the potential to directly benefit our region and our communities, and to kind of give a little bit of transparency about what we know is within those programs. We do have an Appendix D of our tip, our draft tip, that actually disaggregates some of these programs. So where we know something is coming in the region, under one of those programs, we show it in Appendix D. It's not individually listed in the tip. It's programmatically listed in the tip, but we do kind of disaggregate some things. The biggest one of those that I think most people would probably be interested in is the TAP program, the Transportation Alternatives Program, is listed programmatically in the tip. However, all of the projects that are TAP funded in our region, the Derry Rail Trail, the Londonderry Rail Trail in the northern section to Manchester, and then the southern section of Manchester to Londonderry, and then Canal Street and the other projects. All of the existing TAP projects are still programmed. They haven't gone anywhere. They're just listed as program. They're listed as a single program instead of individually in the tip. So if you want to find the details of those projects as we know them today, snapshot in time, Appendix D is the place to look. Lastly, I would note that we do present a couple of new performance targets. In this draft tip, we have updated our transit asset management targets and our public transportation safety targets. The TAM targets, or transit asset management targets, are to incorporate updated fleet data that we've gotten from MTA and Boston Express. And the public transportation safety targets are to incorporate updated PTAS safety data from the Manchester Transit Authority. So we're just trying to keep up on with those targets. There isn't a defined timeline to update those, but as we get new data, we take the opportunity, and the timing worked with the release of this tip to just go ahead and incorporate those updated targets into the draft tip, so that when the draft tip is adopted, we're adopting these targets at the same time as part of it. Whew, okay. That was a lot of me talking. And at this point, I'm happy to take any questions. I don't control how and when New Hampshire DOT programs CMAQ projects. So that's something, if anybody has any questions about how their CMAQ project is programmed, you can send us a comment on the draft tip, and that'll give us an ability to have a conversation with New Hampshire DOT about it. With that, I'll stop sharing here.
Weekly look at the document, but I didn't read it, and again, it just helps, and it's something nice and easy to look at, and
Yeah.
I liked the way it looked at the first one. And I forgot about appendix B, so it's really-
Is everybody asleep after that?
A lot of money in there.
I try to make it as painless as possible walking through all the different projects, but
Sorry, she was muffled in the background. I had just missed the question. I don't know if anybody had heard that online.
was there a question? I didn't hear anything.
Oh, she's talking about.
I mean, in person.
Oh, Linda, okay.
Yeah, I just hadn't heard it. I don't know if anybody heard it.
Wasn't really a question, it was an appreciation of the fact that the document is well ordered enough that once I do actually read the fine print, which I want to do, I'll know where to be looking for it.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know we're all really bummed that you didn't go through that entire DOT list, but we get the time issue.
Next time, we'll walk through it in great detail.
Yeah, we'll cry quietly. Before we go on, I wanted to just review new people that came in. I'm seeing Mark Sunin from New Boston. Mac from DES. Mac, could you pronounce your last name? I'm never good with French.
Well, that's okay. It's Bevere. It's very Americanized.
Bevere, thank you. That's easy for me.
Okay.
And then we have Tracy.
Yes, Tracy, what do you think?
And then back behind me, we have Butch.
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
And
Alex.
Alex.
Alex is a new planner in Manchester planning.
Alex,
Flicker.
thank you. Just so that the meeting notes reflect that.
So thanks, everyone. As I mentioned, we are in the public comment period for the draft tip. So even if you don't have any questions today, if you read through the tip, if you see something, if you have a question about something, please do send it along to me, and we will try to get you an answer if we can't answer it offhand, or if it's a formal public comment about a request to do something different or program a project differently, we can cross that bridge as we come to it. But yeah, so this isn't your only chance to give us comments on the tip. You'll have another chance at the next TAP meeting, and any time in between, feel free to send us a note or an email.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the Transportation Alternatives Program Regional Project Evaluation Process by Dave.
Make sure I got the right one. That one says PowerPoint.
Nope. Yep. Hold on one second when I get the correct presentation up. All right. Did I just make sure I got the right one? All right, that looks correct. All right, can everyone see that in full screen presentation mode at home?
Not quite yet.
No, okay. This one. How about now?
Yes, there you go.
All right, great, thank you. All right, this morning I'm going to be talking about the Transportation Alternatives Program, funding for round 5. All right, so the Transportation Alternative Program, or TAP, is federal funding for non-motorized transportation projects. These funds can not be used for recreational projects or projects that enhance motorized use. There is a recreational trails project program that can be used for recreational projects, but it is not part of TAP. It is important to point out that the TAP is a reimbursement program. It's not a grant. So the project sponsors will need to pay 100% of any bills and then request reimbursement. And it also is important to point out that you do not receive funds before payment is made for eligible work. When you do put those reimbursements in, it's an 80% federal with a 20% local match, meaning that when you put in for reimbursement, you'll get 80% of the total project cost back. So here we have a general category of 4 eligible activities fall in the general categories: construction, planning, and design of on and off-road facilities for non-motorized transportation, construction, planning, and design of infrastructure-related projects and systems that will provide safe routes for non-motorized transportation, the conversion and use of abandoned railroad corridors to trails, and then eligible activities and safe routes to school projects listed under Safety Loop.
I just emailed Alex to remind him to come to this meeting.
Okay, I guess it worked. All right, so now to simplify the last slide, here are some examples of activities that are eligible under the TAP program: sidewalks, bike lanes, pedestrian bicycle bridges, rail trail projects, any type of facility that enhances non-motorized transportation. So the TAP projects obviously must have a transportation focus, so it needs to get people somewhere. So they can't be loop projects, dead end projects. They have to have a beginning and a terminus. Even though the safe routes to school projects are part of TAP now, NHDOT is focused on building infrastructure. So say safe routes, an example would be a travel plan. Safe routes to school travel plan would not be eligible under the TAP. And here we have a map showing the communities that applied for this round of TAP fundings. 30 applications were received with 50 million requested. And for this round, we have about half of that 25 million available. So it is a very competitive process. There's much more demand for resources than there are resources. So we're trying to position our community's projects in the best way possible. And here we have a timeline with some important meetings highlighted. The first one is today. We're going through the overview of the program. We're going to, in following slides, review the project criteria that SNHPC will be using to evaluate each of the applications. And then by the end of the meeting, we'll hopefully have a TAP evaluation subcommittee formed. The next week, we will do a similar type of presentation to the MPO, explaining the same things we're going to go through today. And one addition will be, we'll list the TAP subcommittee members that were formed today. The March 13th meeting will be a very important one that you don't want to miss. That one will be when the TAP project applicants present to the TAP, to the full TAP. By the end of this week, we're going to send out an invite to all the applicants. They will have 15 minutes to present to the TAC, 10 minutes of presentation time, 5 minutes of Q&A. And each applicant will be allowed to do an in-depth presentation of their TAP application project. And after the March 13th meeting, the TAP evaluation subcommittee will meet to evaluate and prioritize the TAP projects. Excuse me, April 17th, the TAP evaluation subcommittee project rankings will be presented to the full TAC for review and revisions if necessary. Following the review and revisions, the TAC will recommend project recommendations to the MPO. On April 22nd, the MPO will review and revise, if necessary, the TAC recommendations rankings, and they will follow by an approval of final project rankings. Now, soon after that, on the 25th, is the deadline for all RPCs to submit the project rankings to DOT. And in this round, we have 3 communities that have submitted applications for TAP funding: Goffstown, Manchester, and Windham. On the next couple slides, I'm going to do a very brief overview of the projects. As I stated earlier, on the 13th, March 13th, the applicants will be in here to do a much deeper dive into the projects and answer any questions. So here we have the first project, Goffstown. They're looking to install a 126-foot long pedestrian bridge over the Piscataquag River, connecting the Goffstown Rail Trail to the Main Street Village area of Goffstown. Here we have the project for Manchester, constructing multimodal improvements, calming traffic, and other safety enhancements by repurposing existing right-of-ways and a roadway width along over 15,000 feet of roadway adjacent to Livingston Park here in the middle. You have Hooksett 3A, Hooksett Road 3A here on Clark Street, Union Street, and it goes around the whole park. And here we have the Wyndham project, constructing 13,170 feet of linear feet of paved path, 10-foot wide with 2-foot shoulders on each side, along an abandoned railroad right-of-way currently named the Wyndham Greenway Rail Trail. We can see that the project will begin at Old Mill Road, go under 93, and end at North Lowell Road, not too far from the existing rail trail. So the review and prioritization process is going to be similar to how TAC and MPO works in relation to each other, except now we'll have a third layer with the evaluation subcommittee. So the regional review and prioritization process is what we're doing here now at SNHPC. This is the first round of review and prioritization, if you will. The applications will be reviewed by the staff, and then the TAP subcommittee evaluation committee will get together and prioritize the projects. Then the evaluation subcommittee recommendations will be presented to the full TAC at the April 17th TAC meeting. Was that supposed to say 13th? The TAC revised recommendations as they see fit and propose recommendations to the MPO. The MPO will then review the TAC recommendations at the April 2nd MPO meeting. Once again, the MPO can modify or accept the recommendations before adopting final project recommendations. With final project prioritization. Once that final project prioritization has been adopted, it will go to NHDOT, where they will do their own review and prioritization process. So, the TAP Evaluation Subcommittee. Traditionally, it's been comprised of 3 to 5 TAC members from communities that did not submit an application or a letter of intent for this round. So we're looking to meet in March. Once we form the subcommittee, we'll send out invitations trying to schedule a time that is convenient for the subcommittee members. We will meet sometime in March to evaluate the projects and rank the projects in order. I'm going to pause right now. Do we have any volunteers for the TAC evaluation subcommittee? I know we have a short room or a small attendance.
Stop sharing.
All right.
So we can see the.
Yeah, I can do it, David.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
2 more.
So David, I may be available, but I won't be able to attend the April meeting if that's going to be a problem.
Oh, that's a problem. Wait, when are they presenting? March,
Yeah.
so they're presenting.
Not attending the April meeting should be.
That's fine, so long as you can see the March meeting.
I should be able to attend the March meeting. Yes.
All right.
All right. So thank you, Mark. Do we have one more brave soul?
I'm happy to volunteer. Can you just tell me what the April meeting date is again?
Yeah.
Paying attention to this.
Well, we see. I'm trying to think of all the dates now. 17th. Yeah.
April 17th.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, good.
But the critical one is
March 13th.
13th, and that is right. That's 1 week before our typical March, because it's usually the 3rd Thursday. So
3 weeks from today.
it's 2 weeks. It's to the 2nd Thursday. Yeah, just 3 weeks away.
Okay, then I can't make it because I will be away. I will be out of town on the 13th. I thought it was still going to be the 19th,
No.
the 20th. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I have to beg out. I will be unavailable for both the March and April meetings.
And it's the morning meeting. It'll be a 9:30 start for the 13th.
Yes, it'd be during regular TAC time.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, Becky. We're down to
Yep.
2 again.
So of the communities that don't have an application, we have Andrew. We have Linda. Who else? Oh, Kristen from Londonderry. And Kristen is brand new, just in case anyone doesn't recognize Kristen's name. She's brand new over at Londonderry. And I don't know if I am also a voting member, but I don't typically want to throw my hat in the ring, right? Okay. But I can.
You could, you are a member of the TAC.
All right.
I feel bad.
I have nothing to do ever. I'm so bored. I'll go ahead and throw my hat in the ring with Liz and Becky. We're gonna make it a party. Welcome for a fourth, but you're good.
All right, thank
Okay.
you, Sylvia. All right, thank you, everyone who volunteered. Let me see if I can get back to the proper PowerPoint again. All right, are we back in full screen?
Yep, looks good.
Thank you. All right, thank you for everyone who volunteered. All right, so here we have the project scoring criteria that we'll be using for this round. I'm going to go through each one of these individually, so there's a lot on the screen here. I just wanted to show it all together to emphasize the point that each one of these categories is going to be worth 20 points each in total. So the first one is adding to existing motorized facilities. Does the project add to existing non-motorized facilities by filling in gaps or adding length for non-motorized uses? We have some sub-criteria to also help with the discussion. Is the project the next phase of a multi-phase project, or is the project the first phase of a multi-phase project? Does the project fill in gaps in existing non-motorized facilities? The next one is providing non-motorized connections. Will the project make connections from population areas to destinations for goods, services, recreation, or government locations? Once again, 20 points in total, and some of the sub-criteria are, does the project connect a large population node to a destination for good services, etc.? Does the project bridge over water or busy roadways connecting to a population node to a destination for goods, service, etc.? Does the project connect a population node to a school? For the third one, will the project provide a non-motorized connection to a bus, train, airport, or parking ride location? This one is fairly simple, so we didn't involve any other sub-criteria. This one is stewardship. How well can the municipality maintain the project once it has been constructed? What resources does the municipality have to provide match funding and maintain the improvements? And the sub-criteria, has the municipality committed to provide non-federal match funding for the project if awarded? Does the municipality have paid staff? Do they have equipment to maintain the improvement? Are there written policies in place? Do they have line items in their budget for maintenance? And lastly, we have the vulnerable road user target areas. This one we're going to be doing, we're going to be using the evaluation of project locations in the context of the Safe Streets and Roads for All high injury network and DOT's vulnerable road user safety assessments to evaluate the project on this criteria. And so that is the first of a couple TAP presentations that we'll be doing, and we can open up to any questions or discussions.
I would just note one thing, for those of you who submitted applications, those criteria will probably look familiar to you because we are largely mirroring the state's criteria for our regional process. So we are essentially looking at the state's criteria through a regional lens for our prioritization process. We have not deviated in any significant way from the state TAP criteria.
I have a question,
Mhm.
Mechanistically, with the refund process, do you apply for that refund prior to the funding of the project? Or do you fully fund the project and then go for the refund after funding? Because I think that changes people's ability to be able to finance this projects if they aren't guaranteed that finance.
By refund, you mean reimbursement?
Or reimbursement, my
Yeah.
apologies, yeah.
So you can't incur any costs before you have a project award, a local project agreement. So you wouldn't, if you went out and spent money tomorrow, you won't be reimbursed for anything occurring before a local project agreement is awarded and in place. Once you have a local project agreement, you move forward. There's a process that you work through with DOT to hire an engineer and step by step, there's a whole manual actually that lays out a step-by-step process for how to do that. But from a cash flow perspective, it is something to consider because you do need to pay, So the contractor, invoices you to construct the project, you're paying those invoices along the way. Say the contractor, sends you an invoice for $1 million, you have to pay that $1 million. And then you will seek reimbursement for $800,000 from New Hampshire DOT. And they will reimburse you, sometime up to 30 days later. So from a cash flow perspective, you do have to front and outlay that cash in order to get reimbursed 80 cents on the dollar.
It's worth knowing the way Nate described it, there are many milestones and you can bill many times. So it's not like you have to have a large chunk of the total cost available for reimbursement. It's just whatever between billing periods, basically.
Okay, I was just curious from an operations. And
We want to mean it before they bother working with you.
that's
I'm going to disagree with you there. I believe NHDOT's policy, and don't quote me on this, is that you have to show that you have access to 100% of the funds before you sign the agreement. So it's not like you can fund it year over year. You have to have 100% of the funds committed before you sign the local project agreement.
When you sign the local project agreement, you are committing to provide the match funding for the entire project.
Not just the match. You have to have 100% of the funding because you have to pay the 100% up front and ask for reimbursement.
Yeah, I would have to look at the details of it. I mean, DOT wants municipalities to be aware of that from a cash flow perspective. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's in some of the language, but.
Does that mean it has to be committed or
Yeah, you like
the funding already has been set aside?
You have to, because we're a town, not a town council, you'd have to have a town warrant article that said you're gonna raise taxes or do whatever you're gonna do to commit this money. And meanwhile, earlier on, before it's on your town warrant vote, you've had all the discussions about who you're gonna tax.
No, I get that. So
You have to have a vote.
So
You just like pretend you're gonna have.
So that's a committed amount of funding, but not a set aside that's already happened. It's just committed.
DOT normally will work with a community that needs to go to town meeting to get authorization for the funding. But if that authorization for the funding at town meeting doesn't come, that usually spells the end of the project.
and there was a project in Warner
Yeah.
that got killed that way.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to go to town meeting, you got a bunch of money sitting in the bank with nothing to do, you can say, okay, we're gonna put $1 million to the project, we're all set, and that's fine, that will work.
Part of the whole thing is the community support. So
Yes.
if you can't get your, board of selectmen or city council or whatever that,
There's no
to say that, we're committed to this project, then, it's not gonna go forward.
Because there's other people that would like to use the money and they would be ready. So it's about.
But there's a whole process. I don't know all the specific details of it as well, but I think Nate explained it pretty well in terms of, we need the commitment from the community that they know this project costs $1 billion, that they can front that, and that they will be reimbursed. It's a reimbursement program.
It's just the first time it's taken, they do give you the money.
Yeah, and for anybody who's interested in learning more, there is a book that explains all of this it is a thick book, as Mark has noted. You can go to Google and you could just type in NHDOT LPA manual, local public agency manual. And that is actually kind of the, for lack of a better term, the Bible when it comes to federally funded, locally managed projects. And so, all of these things are discussed in kind of the step-by-step of how to bring a federally funded project to construction at the municipal level in New Hampshire. You just go to Google NHDOT LPA manual, and you can read that manual to your heart's desire, because there's a lot there, but that really is the best reference for all of this sort of thing.
So just to be clear on this note, of the 3 projects, they each should really provide fairly clear information that funding is secure or something.
Yeah, I mean, the firmer the commitment for match funding at the local level at this point, the less risk there is to the project. The fuzzier or less committed the match funding is, the more risk there is to the project being successful.
And if there's a community that has not supported the project, then would that be considered ineligible?
Well, there was, as part of the there's information on the website, but there was a webinar, and Tom Jameson, who's the project manager on that, went over quite a few of these details. So I guess the way I would explain this is, if the community didn't think, I mean, they were informed, obviously, through all the information that was there in the webinar, that this is a reimbursement program. So I would think that if the community didn't understand that from the very beginning, that hopefully they would have asked that question, because why would you take all the time to prepare an application, submit it, and then not have the support of your community for the funding that you need for it. So, I mean, those things do happen, but I'd say if you have any specific questions on this, I would reach out to Tom Jameson, the project manager for the TAC program. Yep. Because there is a lot there, as we said, the LPA manual is very, it's got a lot of information in there. It's a process. It's very detailed in how things need to move forward. So,
if people want to get certified with New Hampshire DOT as a local project administrator, they can do that too.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for the volunteers for the subcommittee.
All right. Any other business? No? So I guess
Anything that the committee members want to bring up or are interested in reviewing in the next coming meetings? All right.
I would just note, next month is the March 13th. I would expect to be a particularly busy and important meeting for the TAC. You will have TAP applicant presentations, probably for the first half of the meeting. We will discuss any final comments that you may have on the draft tip at that time. But also, we are anticipating our deadline to submit regional 10-year plan project priorities is the end of March. We have been awaiting comments from DOT. We have not received those yet, but I understand they are coming. And so we may also need to make our final recommendations to the MPO on 10-year plan project priorities for the region on March 13th as well. So there could be a busy agenda on March 13th with a lot of important stuff. So
And if you can make it in person, that would be great. It takes 8 of the communities. I'm also a voting member. Tracy's also a voting member. Lucy is, but it'd be great to have enough communities here to have a quorum. So, and remember again, it's the second Thursday, not the third. Thank you so much. Keeping you all on your toes.
all right. I guess that means we're adjourned.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Uh,